Following award-winning presentation, Peter Ustinov in China was completed in 1987, yet provides a context for a better understanding of the current events taking place in China. Please join us for this important award-winning documentary next.
There are bound to be preconceptions about China. The usual ragbag of fact and hearsay, 1,000 million people, Fu Manchu, incense, inscrutability, rice bowls and dragons. However, at heart I suspected, even on this, my first journey of discovery to this spectacular land, that its people would probably react to each other as people will, not as folklore or fairy tales suggest.
Well, it's extraordinary to come to a place you've only read about. And I spent the last 18 hours, I think 1.5 of them asleep, and the other 15.5, my arithmetic is not very good, reading the right book. I now know exactly how long before Christ this building was built. I'm tremendously excited, very vigilant, despite my half-closed eyes. And when I wake up, I will continue.
Never in the course of human transport have so many avoided collision by so little. Today, there is the one-child family. As progress engulfs China, it is bound to become the one-car family. Already, this ostensibly rigid and doctrinaire society is bombarded by the billboards of consumerism. Ambitions sharpen. Life accelerates. Even the poultry have taken flight.
This could be a nerve-wracking experience, but I'm determined not to be fazed by it. There seem to be very little understandable rules of the road. I know that we're an obstacle here to various other bicycles, so there's a ringing of bells, which reminds you of classical Chinese music, and a lot of inquisitive looks, but they're completely without malice. I had the impression when I came here that I would be conscious of a mass of people like this during rush hour, and yet when you look at them, you're conscious of many, many hundreds of thousands of individuals, each with a completely different personality, which strikes you as they ring their bell, and the kind of smile they shoot you, or even lack of it, because there are unsmiling people here as there are everywhere else. Peking is one of the oldest towns. With the modern respect for other traditions, we pronounce it Beijing, so that that attractive pug-nosed little dog, beloved of old ladies in our society, has now, I'm afraid, become a Beijingese. But it's usually known to us historically, to my generation at least, as Peking. I find myself strangely at home in a country which had seemed to me historically to be forbidding. I don't find it forbidding for one moment.
while those in the prime of life pedal towards their destinies on the main thoroughfares, the old and the young shelter on the curbsides, which are alive with activity at all times bar the dead of night. The old hone their shrewdness in games of intelligence, unhurried, exchanging banter. The soothing caress of pipe smoke lulls the mind. This youngster, meanwhile, encouraged by his parent, wonders whether it's really possible or mutually beneficial to make a household pet of a domesticated cricket. Other children play games together, enjoying the sensation of dizziness. And learning to organize their thoughts in nursery jingles. Their amazingly expressive wrists are marvelously and naturally graceful. Oh, Lord, this lad looks rather like I did at that age. I wonder if he's as inquisitive as I used to be. Yes, here he comes. Oh!
Well, here we are at the Great Wall. It was never very successful at keeping the enemy out, but it certainly kept the tourists in. I've never seen so many people in my life confined into such a small space. I'm told that both President Nixon and President Reagan visited it, and by the time they got there were so bereft of any kind of inspiration, they both said, well, it's a Great Wall. Except I think it's probably more credible that Reagan must have said, this Great Wall of ours, of yours.
The Great Wall is the only man-made structure which has been seen from the moon. It stretches for 6,000 kilometers and was begun in the 5th century before Christ. It can cope with 5 horsemen riding abreast, or 10 infantrymen marching shoulder to shoulder, or countless tourists taking photographs of each other against a background of other tourists. A far cry from the days when smoke signals raised the alarm. The enemy is in sight.
There's a further detail for your information. When they lit their smoke signals, of course, there were fires at night, the alarm signal. 2 fires for 1,000 men and so on. In the daytime, it was smoke, and apparently one of the secrets of science which has been lost is that when they burn wolf dung, for some reason the smoke goes directly up in the air. Any other dung, it remains floating about. But wolf dung, absolutely straight as a die. I thought you ought to know that.
The wall has had to be repaired frequently during its existence. Today, the ravages of war are replaced by the ravages of peace. A group with souvenirs can cause as much structural damage as a battalion with small arms. The wars, famines, and droughts of a long history has given the Chinese a communal sense, which lends itself easily to the exigencies of a centralized one-party system. But the individual Chinese is often gifted as a businessman, a bargainer, a negotiator. And here in the free market, this gift manifests itself. It is a place of argument, of assessment, where the purchasers and vendors wear their shrewdness on their sleeve. The need for self-expression is universal. The market is a safety valve where competitiveness and bravado can express themselves.
Buying 35mm film is never easy.
I'm confused.
It's all very simple.
There's 100.
For inside and out.
Unless it's too dark or too bright.
And then change to 400.
Or you could push it to 800.
If you don't mind the gray.
But it is faster.
Depending on the condition.
Well, then you use 1,000.
Of course.
Change to 400?
Introducing 35mm Polaroid One Film. With one film, you can get beautiful pictures in bright light, low light, inside and out. New 35mm One Film. For beautiful pictures, the choice is easy.
Fresh ideas, quick, delicious salad tips from Hidden Valley Ranch.
There's a lot more to salad than crisp lettuce leaves. Colorful fresh fruit also make for a sensational salad. Some tips for showing off your creative talents in a moment.
Italian dressings have oil, and Italian dressings have vinegar. But only one Italian dressing has the touch of ranch. Introducing Hidden Valley Ranch, ranch-style Italian. It's amazing how just a touch of ranch can turn ordinary Italian dressing into a delicious new taste in Italian. Hidden Valley Ranch, ranch-style Italian. The only one with a touch of ranch.
When you need to speed the ripening of fruit, here's how. Place fruit in a ripening bowl or a paper bag along with a banana. Keep at room temperature and the fruit will be ready in a day or two. To keep plump, beautiful berries at their best, rinse just before using. With strawberries, be sure to rinse with caps or stems on to protect their texture and nutrients. A squeeze of lemon after slicing will preserve the pretty color of apples, peaches, and other fruits. Give a store-bought dressing signature flair by adding fresh lime and a teaspoon of curry powder. For variety, serve with a scoop of chicken salad. It makes good food taste even better.
A fresh idea from Hidden Valley Ranch.
Come celebrate the best of Discovery all month long with a viewer's choice. Join a mission of mercy. Whales stranded on an Australian beach. Townspeople mobilized. A desperate rescue operation. Will the ocean giants survive? Find out on Natural World. Saturday at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. Another viewer's choice from the best of Discovery.
I was told by an experienced traveler that the Chinese are camera shy. Well, that must have been last year. Here are the Ming tombs. Today, even the few remaining monarchs tend to think of life while it lasts, rather than making elaborate preparations for their own deaths, approving designs for flattering memorials or choosing burial lots.
I think we've arrived. Is this a lot you choose for yourself?
No, preoccupation with death is out. Only photography is in. Happiness can be celebrated in cemeteries. And even laughter is in the best of taste. One shrine is still visited with more than passing interest. In fact, the long march continues in its direction. The mausoleum of Chairman Mao Zedong at the end of Tiananmen Square.
I have got permission to photograph here.
I'm standing in the middle of the intimacy of Tiananmen Square, which means the gate of heavenly peace. It's the most enormous open space that I've ever seen in a large town, in which all sorts of strange and wonderful sights are seen, and that usual Chinese gift of making something very cozy out of something enormous. The grins on the face of children. There's one looking at me right now and grinning away down there. Wherever you turn, there is something interesting to look at. And I'm not suggesting I'm one of the things that's interesting to look at, but a lot of people are looking at me, including the child. The Forbidden City with its yellow to orange roofs, the prerogative of the imperial family. It was shut for centuries from prying eyes, a city within a city, without traffic or noise other than the rustle of silk and the occasional rattle of carriages. It was shut once again during the Cultural Revolution, but now it is open to the world, surrendering a few of its secrets, ungrudging. Building was begun in 1406 AD and completed in 1420 by 1 million workmen. With its 720 square meters, there are a mere 9,000 rooms. This is an extraordinary building because one is quite used to palaces, enormous things built by men and surrounded later by trees. But to mobilize nature in this way and to make it part of a plot to induce tranquility in the spirit, here is a rock which has been, I suppose, carefully nurtured and sculptured with a palace on top of it, a little one, which was used by the emperor for meditation and, as one Chinese friend very pleasantly put it, for sightseeing. I remember being told at school, at my prep school when I was 8 or 9, that green and blue were things to avoid together. They weren't very attractive. Well, I rebelled then, as I rebel now, and looking at the painting on the pavilion behind me, a most exquisite blend of greens and blues. And in fact, I didn't know it was like that, but I wore a green and blue tie today, of which I'm particularly proud and for which I have the greatest affection. It's the right place to wear it, because here everything is green and blue, with the orange tiles on the roofs and the kind of very Chinese lacquer red color of the buildings. The atmosphere of calm seems to be pervasive because they're much less noisy here than they were on the Great Wall, when they were behaving as though they'd just seen the enemy. Here, the enemy is not even thought of. Some sights make one nervous. What is she doing? Or this gentleman, who seems to be training as a cheerleader for Texas State. Is this an engine driver gone round the bend with the passing of steam? Is this couple killing time before an appointment with the marriage counselor? And what is this pocket Schwarzenegger up to in a public place? And what on earth is this? A portly Baryshnikov? What's he doing? Oh, it's difficult to see him and do it at the same time. But there are all lots and lots of different Chinese solutions to all sorts of problems, and you suddenly see people stopping in the street and going, and reintroducing tension in parts of the body where it should be, and therefore making other parts of the body more relaxed. He's getting awfully close. There are those too coy for solitary calisthenics, and they go public, both in and out of kilter, with due solemnity and regard for every telltale crack of a bone and tingle of an artery. They know what they're doing. After 8 or 9 centuries, they've just got the knack of certain things we've either never had or have lost. Oh, it's really sort of baseball or tennis. I think that was out. I'm very glad I wasn't allowed to take part. I would have decapitated somebody or been decapitated, which would upset me more. This is the Beijing sports school, which trains the young in everything from martial arts to bridge. Bridge is on the mezzanine floor. Well, very, very good. And they're both leaving intact. They're extraordinary because they do these exercises alone, and they either make the noise of no one or of 10 people. Yeah. They're not going to stay there for long. If they move so fast, I don't think anybody can catch them. We used to have to do this kind of thing in the army, but much less gracefully, much less nimbly, with the awful voice of a sergeant saying, "In, out, on guard."
some extraordinary violent gestures with the tassel, and I've noticed that the part of the carpet where he's been is now spotlessly clean.
What gives you lots of hot water? The lowest cost way?
Nothing does it like gas.
What heats water so efficiently it's half the cost of electricity?
Nothing does it like gas.
America's best energy value.
Summer fruits.
Remember that special feeling called summer? Remember the taste of summer plums? Sweet, juicy, tart, and tangy.
Summer fruits from California, fresh from the tree, taste them and see.
Fresh plums are one of the good things that make summer summer. But like summer, they'll soon be just a sweet memory.
Summer fruits from California, summer fruits from California.
Ann Cullen is an ex-Rolaids user.
Rolaids is chalky.
Now she uses Tempo.
Tempo is smooth, Tempo is chewy, and Tempo it gives me quick relief. You wouldn't believe how fast I was relieved.
Great tasting Tempo, a better way to get antacid relief.
I lost 7 pounds in 1 week. 7 pounds.
The Ultra Slim Fast Pledge. Give us a week, we'll take off the weight. 2-calorie Ultra Slim Fast tastes great.
Losing 4 pounds in 1 week was easy.
Give us a week, we'll take off the weight.
Could one volcano cause crop failure in India and summer snow in Nantucket?
In 1815, Tambora unleashed the largest eruption in history.
What mammal is capable of spending 90% of its time underwater?
Elephant seals can dive 64 times a day for 19 minutes per dive.
Journey to the remote habitats of Earth's most exotic species in Natural History magazine. Explore the origins of man and his cultures. Witness the birth of a distant star, or marvel at the diversity of life in the smallest pond. Experience the world of nature through in-depth articles and breathtaking photographs. Subscribe now and enjoy the benefits of an associate membership in the American Museum of Natural History. Take part in the journey through nature's universe, and welcome to the adventure. Sample Natural History magazine without obligation. Call toll-free 1-800-635-4800. If not delighted, return the bill marked cancel and keep your first copy. Call now 1-800-635-4800.
Know why this man ran into problems with the Tennessee Valley Authority?
They're building a system here which essentially is full of unknowns. And that represents a life-threatening situation.
Join John Hart and the World Monitor team tonight, and you'll discover the why behind the world's news.
Here is an adult application of the artistry we have just seen in the young. The Beijing Opera in an incident from an opera entitled Stealing the Magic Herb, the libretto of which is no less far-fetched than that of most other operas. It's difficult to know who has the secret herb at this moment, or indeed who hopes to have it very soon. But these details are quickly lost in the riveting artistry of the protagonist. Would Verdi and Wagner be performed as often in the West if the singers had to master all these arts as well as sing? New York is not America. London is not Britain. Neither Toronto nor Montreal or Canada. How often have we heard these truths? a little more often perhaps than that Beijing is not China. We leave with some regret at the end of a wonderful day to savor the distant heartland. What will the dawn bring? We are moving further away from the sea, further away from immediate outside influence. Gansu is China's poorest province, most of which has an arid, sandy surface carried by the winds in the form of dust, which give the Yellow River its name. As usual in China, there is a welcoming committee for invited guests.
According to Prime Minister Zhou Enlai, they decided to show foreigners not only their achievements, but also more backward areas. And this is one of those by which one can, of course, judge their considerable achievements. I can't wait to see this. It's a completely different atmosphere from Beijing. Lanzhou. Lanzhou City, the capital of Gansu Province, a long tube-like province going up to the border of Inner Mongolia in the north, right down into the center of China. And behind me, there is a statue of a mother and child. The child is symbolic of China, the mother of the Yellow River. Why? Because there have been digs going on around here and artifacts have been found dating to 5,000 years and beyond. Lanzhou was a large garrison city on the famous Silk Road. And as such, people of all tribes and races passed this way backward and forward and left their mark on China.
It stands to reason that the restless shift of populations has left its sediment of influence. Here is a mosque, a place of worship for the Muslim minority, members of which can be identified by their white skull cap. 7% of the population, 70 million people, belong to ethnic minorities, and the majority of these are Muslim by origin. All these minorities are treated with generosity and circumspection by the central government. For instance, they are not subject to the restrictions imposed on the native Chinese as to the size of their families. The Chinese feel enriched by the presence of these exotic foreign elements in this, the most ancient part of their country.
I've always suspected that, in fact, Christopher Columbus was really the first tourist. We're now on the old and famous Silk Road, where the silk caravans traveled from Xi'an, the old capital of China, through Samarkand to the west and brought back various things. And Marco Polo, of course, traveled this way too, who was another one of these very early tourists.
He traveled more slowly than we can, taking in the immensity of this country at the languorous pace which gave thought its profundity and ambition its dimension.
Of course, what Marco Polo had the vision to initiate had an enormous influence on Europe. Chinoiserie became a whole style of furniture making and general comportment. There were Chinese rooms everywhere. In the 18th century especially, or even the early 19th century. You only have to go to Brighton in England to see the influence of the Orient on the pavilion which the Prince Regent built. And all that initiated from the Silk Road and Marco Polo, who must have trembled with excitement when he discovered that the Chinese had spaghetti and knew by instinct as an Italian what an effect this would have back home. Delicious. Spaghetti. fabbricazione di pasta cinese, it's a breach of copyright. I go back to Italy, I tell Marco Polo what you do. Ma cosa fai, scusa? Questa è la salsa? Questa è la salsa, scusa. Devo mangiare, c'è fame io. Ma no, perché? Sono italiano, sono spaghetti. È vero. You are on the camera.
Xining, still further away from what we know, and onto a high and breathless plain. A realm of nosebleeds and headaches and bright red cheeks. I caught cold in 2 minutes flat.
Well, we're on the highway from Xining to Tibet in Quang province. And we're supposed to be between 3,700 meters above sea level and 4,200 meters above sea level. I'd like to split the difference and say we're nearer 5,000 meters above sea level. I can breathe, but with difficulty. I have to ration my oxygen internally somehow. It's very impressive scenery, as you can imagine.
Here the wolves will eat out of your hand, or eat your hand if there's nothing in it. Oh, Lord, he heard me.
I've just had it explained to me in colloquial Tibetan that these two pagoda-like buildings are the old frontier between China and Tibet. And a marriage was arranged with a very beautiful Chinese princess. Isn't that right? Yes. And the king of Tibet. And she was frightened of being homesick, so they gave her a mirror in which every time she looked into the mirror, she could see her parents. I think that's what you told me. And when they got here, she felt homesick, and she looked in the mirror, and there were the parents, and she was reconciled. But the Tibetans saw this, got very anxious, because they felt that by the time they got back to Lhasa, she might be looking at the mirror practically all the time and not pay enough attention to the king. So they surreptitiously destroyed the mirror, copied it, and gave it her, and she didn't notice it wasn't the same mirror, but she looked in it and she saw no one. But luckily, she quickly fell in love with the king and forgot her parents. And it led to better relations between Tibet and China. In fact, the agricultural zone ends here, which is Chinese, and the pastoral zone begins, which is Tibetan. As I was told by him, relations improved. And look how they are now between Tibet and the rest of the world.
A lonely road, two Buddhist monks smiling about life's hardships. Can the Lamasery be far away?
This very large Lamasery and a complex of buildings was built around about the end of the 17th century. And it's very striking that the monks themselves, with wonderful, gnarled, wizened faces, and some very young apprentices, boys dressed as monks, tiny children dressed as monks, they only speak Tibetan. I wouldn't know the difference myself, but the Chinese guide was unable to understand what they were saying. And this Tibetan tradition still continues today, and it's indicative that during all the ravages of the Cultural Revolution, when many ancient monuments were unfortunately damaged, this complex was protected by the local government so effectively that nothing was touched. it's extraordinary that here there are still 500 or more lamas in residence, of which 300 are apprentice lamas or students. And they have schools of Tibetan medicine, which is very different from Chinese medicine, is still practiced. And now in Lhasa, there's great attempts to revive it. And suddenly there's the incongruous sound of a motor bicycle in the background to disturb the heavenly peace of these buildings. But that is China today, full of the most incredible contrasts and faces which are shy at the beginning but soon break into infectious smiles, whether they speak Tibetan, Mandarin, or even English.
Hello, I'm Victor Kayam. Remington's dedicated employees are proud to produce quality grooming products sold around the world. For advanced shaving technology, the Remington Microscreen Ultimate. It shaves as close as a blade or your money back. And the Remington Electroblade vibrating blade system glides so easily for close, smooth, comfortable blade shaves or your money back. Advanced American technology. Worldwide quality from Remington.
Shimmering. Blue Windex, Ammonia D. Vinegar Windex, real vinegar, fresh scent, both streak-free. Perfect. That Windex shine. Depend on it.
Keep that great shower fresh feeling all day with Ban Solid. Ban has a curve for comfort shape. Ban glides on creamy smooth. Ban Solid gives you a shower fresh feeling that lasts all day.
Keep that shower fresh feeling all day.
A public service announcement from the Department of Justice Office of Special Counsel.
Do you know your rights as an employee? Under the law, an employer cannot fire or refuse to hire you based on your citizenship status or national origin. Now, if you feel that you've been a victim of discrimination, there is help available. The Office of Special Counsel for Immigration-Related Unfair Employment Practices is there to help you. Call toll-free 1-800-255-7688.
Every day, the Discovery Channel takes you on a global adventure. To help plan your journey, the Discovery Channel presents TDC, the monthly program guide that takes you to places like Japan, a culture rich in tradition and beauty. Meet the artists of a different breed on the streets of New York. Explore the wilds of Africa and witness the power of nature. TDC fine-tunes your viewing experience on the Discovery Channel. It keeps you informed and up-to-date on every minute of programming. Let TDC become your guide and receive 12 monthly issues for only $11.95. Call 1-800-TDC-8343. That's 1-800-TDC-8343. Your ticket to adventure.
Have you read about the Surgeon General's report?
Oh, I'll get to it right after my grape nuts.
It says Americans should be eating more complex carbohydrates.
Can you make that simple?
They're energy sustaining, so they help you get through the morning. And grape nuts is loaded with them.
So while I'm enjoying this great nutty taste, I get those complex
Carbohydrates to help you get through the morning.
Oh. Who would have thought these little things could do so much?
Who?
Post Grape Nut Cereal, the one and only.
Exercise helps the blood to move around inside the body.
Exercise helps the blood to move around inside the body.
When daylight comes, we must get up. This is the time for exercise.
This is the time for exercise.
The brain
Tibetans learn English without tears.
The brain also needs blood. With centuries of drink, with free exercise, we can think clear. Walking, running, swimming are all exercise. Exercise makes the body strong.
Huangzhong Township near Tar Lamasery is full of secular as well as holy pursuits. Men drive their tractors with beady authority, or else remember the times when they used to drive them. Others, more traditional, stick to older means of transport. Women playfully settle their accounts. Or else brood over accounts unsettled. While relaxation is guaranteed by a red billiard table, a probable relic of the Cultural Revolution, as someone must have been congratulated for such eloquent symbolism. The monks mingle with the mainstream of life and even give in to curiosity and the odd giggle before committing their steps to the endless road. The harvest is as organized as a piece of planning, the wheat being cut within an inch of the ground, and the sheaves stacked as in a drill sergeant's dream. Nothing is wasted in China. Nothing is lost. Wealth is not opulence, but thrift. It has been like that for centuries. It's not without reason, and this is a rule all over the world, that the most isolated communities, those which are most untouched by the mainstream, are also the most conservative and intractable. It's lonely out there in the fields. Lonelier still where the field ends and infinity seems to begin. The territory of the homeless, by choice.
We're here in nomad country, and it's absolutely thrilling landscape, open landscape. It strikes me here as it struck me very often before, but here it brought home with absolute clarity that here are people that one has never seen before and who have certainly never seen us. They've obviously never traveled outside this area. Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, is 3 days and 3 nights away. You have to take your own gasoline, but along a very good highway. But we look at each other, and there's a degree of shyness, which is normal, and an immediate degree of understanding. I think we could all get on very well together. Yes.
Lunch is a compensation for hard work, but the visual aspect of the Tibetan lunch does little to stimulate my appetite. Not soul food so much as gut food. Still, one has to be polite.
It's an acquired taste, but I've acquired it straight away.
The bread looks like entrails. The yogurt like, well...
I can recommend this to all yak lovers. It's homemade yak yogurt. And it's very sour, but terribly good, clean.
I find it difficult to enjoy meat which has any resemblance with the living animal. The sausages glisten with signs of recent life. As for the meat, one could easily reconstruct several animals with it, like a jigsaw puzzle.
Well, I'll try it. Let's try it.
Nothing is more destructive to a delicate palate than the carnal culinary enjoyment of others.
For me, I'm going to get hysterics. I can see it coming. This is absolutely and entirely different from Chinese food, which tends to be delicate in many different kinds of food. Taken with chopsticks, dropped on the tablecloth when it happens to one of us, which quite often, I'm afraid, it is greeted with politeness, and they get up and help you not to do it anymore. It's all very carefully calculated. This Tibetan food is rather what one imagines Vikings to be eating. There's food all over the table. There's no tablecloth. There are great chunks of sausage which are cut manfully with a knife. It's eaten like that, and it gives you a feeling of virility and strength and closeness to nature. I feel terribly close to nature now, and I've only eaten about a third of what I've been given. Gatinchi. Oh, I'm dropping it into my milk.
Hello. Here's tomorrow's lunch on its way. Herded by the only large running dogs we saw on our voyage, and accompanied by the ripple of mocking feminine laughter at the sight of so many pallid Westerners out of their element. The proud stance of the Yak Boys suggests that even John Wayne would have no luck in asserting his authority in the wild and woolly East. But before turning back towards the sea, we'll visit those who live in even remoter isolation, who've never seen a non-Chinese face, whose universe is a few square miles of dusty hills, peopled by acquaintances who live in caves, without light other than the sun.
Later this month, you'll go wild about Harry Butler, an Australian who knows his way around the wilderness. A special presentation all day, Sunday, June 18th. It's the best of Discovery.